Good evening. My name's Maggie Lennon and welcome to Scotland at 7 on Thursday the 2nd of March. There's no guest in the studio tonight, so it's just little old me, but we'll start with a roundup of the latest news from Ukraine. Vladimir Putin has told the French President Emmanuel Macron that Ukrainian intransigence means the worst is yet to come in Ukraine, the Elysee Palace has reported. In a 90-minute call in which the Russian leader also said Moscow was aiming for full control of the country by diplomatic or military means. Russian forces are in control of both local and regional government buildings in the strategically important Black Sea port Kherson, local authorities have said. More heavy explosions were reported in Ukraine's capital Kyiv and second city Kharkiv overnight and on Thursday after Russian strikes. Shelling has killed 34 civilians in Kharkiv in the past 24 hours, the authorities have reported. The port of Mariupol on the Sea of Azov is reportedly surrounded by Russian troops and without power, heating or water, the city council have said, and they've been accusing the invading forces of deliberately trying to prevent civilians from leaving. Ukraine's defensive lines are holding against the Russian attack. President Zelensky said, adding that there had been no respite in Moscow's shelling of Ukrainian cities since midnight. The Russian advance on Kyiv has been delayed by staunch Ukrainian resistance, mechanical breakdown and congestion, and it is still more than 19 miles or 30 kilometres from the centre of the city, Britain's Defence Ministry has said. At least 350 Ukrainian civilians have been killed and more than 2,000 injured, according to Ukraine's emergency services. Transport facilities, hospitals, kindergartens and homes have all been destroyed, it said. Russia's Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, said Moscow would not tolerate what he said was a military threat from Ukraine. He said, without giving evidence, that the United States was worried about losing control over what he has called chemical and biological laboratories in Ukraine. A second round of ceasefire talks is about to begin, but officials from both sides have confirmed that there's little hope of an immediate breakthrough. More than 1 million people have fled Ukraine since Russian forces invaded last week, the head of the United Nations Refugee Agency has confirmed. Ukraine have claimed that nearly 7,000 Russian troops have been killed in the first 6 days of Moscow's invasion. Moscow said 498 Russian soldiers had died in Ukraine since the start of its campaign, which is its first statement on casualties. The International Criminal Court confirmed it is opening an investigation into possible war crimes in Ukraine and has begun collecting evidence. The United Nations General Assembly voted overwhelmingly to deplore Russia's invasion of Ukraine and called for immediate withdrawal of its forces, with 141 of the 193 member states voting for the resolution on Wednesday. The United Nations nuclear watchdog has voiced concern after Russian forces claimed to have surrounded Ukraine's biggest atomic plant and has called for its workers to be left alone to do their jobs. Police in Moscow, meanwhile, have detained 2 women and 5 children holding a poster outside the Ukrainian embassy that said, "No to war." Russia's central bank has imposed a 30% commission on foreign currency purchases by individuals on currency exchanges. And Russian and Belarusian athletes have been banned from the Winter Paralympic Games for their countries' roles in the conflict, the International Paralympic Committee has said, which is a reversal of its previous stance. French authorities seized a super yacht linked to the Rosneft boss Igor Sechin in the Mediterranean, a day after unconfirmed reports that German officials had seized a $600 million super yacht belonging to the oligarch Alisher Usmanov in Hamburg. More on that conversation between Macron and Putin, and Vladimir Putin has told Emmanuel Macron that Kyiv's refusal to accept Russia's conditions means he will continue to pursue his war in Ukraine. The Elysee Palace added, We expect the worst is yet to come. As the number of refugees fleeing the conflict passed 1 million, and Russian forces backed by heavy shelling advanced on cities and key ports in the south and east, Russia's president said in a 90-minute call to his French counterpart he was prepared to go all the way, the senior French official has said. Macron has responded that Putin was making a major mistake that would cost Russia dearly over the long term. There was nothing in what President Putin said to reassure us, the official said. Macron had told the Russian president he was lying to himself and his country would end up isolated, weakened and under sanctions for a very long time. Putin, who initiated the call, repeated that Moscow's objective was the neutralization, demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine, the official said, adding that Moscow aimed to take full control of the country by diplomatic or military means. Ukrainian negotiators arrived by helicopter in Belarus for talks with Russia's delegation on Thursday, seeking an immediate ceasefire and humanitarian corridors to allow civilians to leave frontline areas, the Ukrainian presidential advisor has said. Kyiv has previously warned Russia's demands were not realistic. Ukrainian President Zelensky warned that if the West did not increase military aid, Russia would advance on the rest of Europe. If you do not have the power to close the skies, then give me planes, he said. If we are no more, then God forbid, Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia will be next. Elsewhere in that part of the world, Moldovan President Maia Sandu has signed a formal application for her country to join the European Union on Thursday, charting a pro-Western course hastened by Russia's invasion of neighbouring Ukraine. Ms Sandow's move comes days after President Zelensky of Ukraine has signed a request for immediate EU membership as it battles invading Russian forces. Moscow is fiercely opposed to the eastern expansion of both the EU and especially of NATO, which it sees as a direct threat to its own national security. President Sandu, the Prime Minister and the Parliamentary Speaker all signed the document during a briefing in the capital, where pro-Russian and pro-EU politicians have vied for control since Moldova won independence from the Soviet Union in 1991. It took 30 years for Moldova to reach maturity, but today the country is ready to take responsibility for its own future, said Ms Sandow, before holding up the signed document to the television cameras. We want to live in peace, prosperity, and be part of the free world. While some decisions take time, others must be made quickly and decisively, and taking advantage of the opportunities that come with a changing world, she added. The application will be sent to Brussels in the coming days, she said. EU leaders may discuss Ukraine's request at an informal summit next month, diplomats have said. Businesses in Scotland are being urged to withdraw from trading with Russia during its invasion of Ukraine. Finance and Economy Secretary Kate Forbes has asked companies to take economic action by reviewing operations for links and connections to Russia and severing them. In an open letter to the business community, Ms Forbes has outlined that the Scottish Government and its economic agencies will use all available powers not to support trade and investment activity with Russia. Support and advice will be offered to businesses as they adapt to removing links with Russia. The letter points to a wave of revulsion across the world, with an overwhelming number of nations coming out in opposition to the invasion of Ukraine. The Scottish Government says it has made clear that it stands in solidarity with the Ukrainian government and its people. The Scottish Government letter goes on to say, we all have a moral duty right now to consider what else we can do to try to stop Putin's aggression, including via economic action. Nations across the world have imposed severe economic sanctions against the Putin regime and its close associates. The Scottish Government fully supports the sanctions the UK Government has imposed and will do all that they can to encourage and enable their strict enforcement. For any sanctions to be meaningful, they will also have an impact on the countries and economies that are opposing them. That will be true Scotland as true in Scotland, as it will be across the rest of the UK, the EU and the US. However, any price paid here is significantly less than that being paid by the people of Ukraine. Following intense international pressure, the International Paralympic Committee today announced that it had reversed its shock decision 24 hours earlier and will now ban Russian and Belarusian athletes from the Beijing Paralympics. However, in response to the decision, Russia has launched a challenge in the Court of Arbitration for Sport. The Russian sports minister, Oleg Matyatstin, confirmed the appeal to its athletes, which Russia hopes will be heard immediately, saying the ban has been a manipulation of the Olympic Charter. The ban will affect around 83 athletes from the two countries. Parsons described the situation in the athletes' village in Beijing as being untenable without the ban being implemented due to dissent amongst athletes, as well as the IPC. The British Paralympic Authority was one of the organisations to have criticised the decision, and the UK government had also asked the IPC to reconsider. Closer to home in Scotland, North Lanarkshire Council have announced in a statement that they are exercising their rights under the terms of their contract with Clyde Football Club for their use of Broadwood Stadium, in particular the clause which entitles the council to refuse entry to the stadium to any individual on the grounds of undesirable behaviour. The council have informed the club that David Goodwillie must not be permitted access to the stadium for any purpose with immediate effect. Should Mr Goodwillie enter the stadium, North Lanarkshire Council say they will consider the contract to have been breached and we will take immediate steps to terminate it. North Lanarkshire Council have also informed Clyde Football Club that the council does not intend to renew the lease with the club when the contract for the use of Broadwood Stadium expires in May 2023. The council said it utterly condemns all and any violence towards or abuse of women. North Lanarkshire Council say they believe in rehabilitation and have services which provide this. They pointed out that Mr Goodwillie has not expressed any contrition in relation to the rape which the court found he had committed in the civil action against him, adding that re-signing Mr Goodwillie, Clyde Football Club had failed to acknowledge that background or community concerns, instead choosing to focus on enabling Mr Goodwillie to play football. It has also been announced that the entire playing squad and general manager of Clyde's women's team no longer wish to play for Clyde FC. The SNP has urged the UK Tory government to act immediately as industry experts predict energy bills are set to soar even higher, potentially to £3,000 a year. Chief Executive of Energy UK, Emma Pinchbeck, said the conflict in Ukraine has seen the price of crude oil rocket again. She warned that households can expect bills to be anywhere between £2,500 to £3,000 in October. Household energy bills were already expected to increase to £2,000 a year as a result of the cost of living crisis. This, on top of increasing food bills and council tax, has resulted in the SNP to urge the Tories at Westminster to introduce measures that will help ease the cost of living for thousands of families. Commenting, SNP MSP Emma Roddick said, "Thousands of families are already suffering from a spiralling cost of living increase, and the Russian invasion of Ukraine is about to make things worse as the price of a barrel of oil continues to rocket to unprecedented levels. Ultimately, this will impact families on the lowest incomes, but the Tory UK government has done next to nothing to support them and see them through the crisis." New legislation to improve the system through which transgender people can gain legal recognition has been published. The Gender Recognition Reform Scotland Bill, will amend the Gender Recognition Act 2004 to introduce new criteria for applicants who wish to obtain a gender recognition certificate. Obtaining a GRC means a trans person is legally recognised in their acquired gender and can obtain a new birth certificate showing that gender. The bill, which will require applicants to make a legally binding declaration that they intend to live permanently in their acquired gender. They will no longer need to provide medical reports or evidence. Applicants will be required to live in their acquired gender for a minimum of 3 months, with a reflection period of a further 3 months before a certificate is granted. The bill proposes a criminal offence for applicants to make a false statutory declaration with a potential punishment of up to 2 years' imprisonment. The bill follows extensive consultation. Almost 2/3 of respondents to the Scottish Government's 2017 consultation on the principles of gender recognition reform were in favour of introducing a statutory declaration system for legal gender recognition. Elsewhere in the Scottish Parliament, International Women's Day debate has been dedicated to women in conflict. Leading a debate on the International Women's Day, SNP MSP Michelle Thomson dedicated the debate to the women and girls caught up in the conflict following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The debate took place in advance of International Women's Day 2022, which takes place on the 8th of March. This year's theme is Break the Bias, and seeks to highlight the impact of bias, both conscious and unconscious, on women and girls, and to imagine a world free of bias, stereotype and discrimination. Michelle Thompson MSP asked all MSPs participating to join her in dedicating the debate to the women and girls caught up in the current conflict following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Commenting, Michelle Thompson said, "This year's theme for International Women's Day is breaking the bias, and given the events unfolding over the last few weeks, it seems imperative that we use the opportunity to draw attention to the targeted way the Russian invasion of Ukraine will impact upon women. It's the least we can do. We know that women and girls caught up in conflict suffer hugely, and with women and children making up the bulk of the huge number of refugees who have crossed the borders from Ukraine over the last week, it is essential that we recognise their plight and do all we can to help them." On the day when we learned that the very last independent broadcasting units based in Russia, both a television company and a radio broadcaster, have been closed down, it's important to remember how important independent broadcasting is. Broadcasting Scotland is Scotland's independent news, culture and current affairs TV channel. We're based in a well-equipped studio in Glasgow and with outside broadcasting technology. We're ready to deliver the sort of fair and balanced news coverage which a modern and outlooking Scotland needs. Right now, we present 2 regular programmes. Scotland at 7, our 1-hour news show covering today's stories from Scotland and around the world. It's on a Monday to Friday each week. And we also present a Sunday lunchtime roundup, the full Scottish. And if you look on our website, you'll see we have also started our own live music specials. We have more shows in the pipeline and a full afternoon to evening schedule planned. But as we are a public service channel and will always be free to view, we need your cash to make it happen. Our station is paid for only by our wonderful supporters who have signed up on our website and who contribute a regular monthly amount. If we doubled our subscriptions, we could increase our program making right away. And with 35,000 subscribers, we could offer a full programme of shows like a sort of CNN for viewers in Scotland. Our team includes highly skilled IT and media professionals and enthusiasts with a range of backgrounds and experiences. We're all volunteers, and we all agree that Scotland needs quality news and quality TV to support our Scottish democracy. If you agree with us, why not join us, either as a subscriber or perhaps as one of our volunteers? And you're very welcome from any part of Scotland. Broadcasting Scotland is your independent TV station, and on the screen you can see the web address. Please go on www.broadcastingscotland.scot/donate and consider becoming one of our subscribers. That's all we have for you this evening. I hope you have a pleasant evening, and I'll see you soon. Thank you and good evening.